Officer Martino.
Okay, on the record in the matters of the people of the state of Michigan versus Brent Dennis, 25-00004 and 25-00038. Council appearance.
Good morning, Your Honor. APA Bart Buxton on behalf of the people of the state of Michigan.
And thank you, Your Honor, and good afternoon. Jared Austin appearing on behalf of Mr. Dennis. He is present with me at council table.
Today's the date scheduled for preliminary examination on both of these. One is an assault murder and the other is police officer assault and possession of narcotics. How are we proceeding?
Your Honor, my understanding is that Mr. Dennis wishes to conduct both of his examinations.
Any preliminary matters?
No, Your Honor, we plan on, just for the record's sake, plan on moving forward first on 25-038-FY, the resisting and obstructing as well as the possession of narcotics, and then moving into the other case, the 25-004-FY, the A women assault.
Sounds good. By witness.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. People call Officer Rotundo on the stand.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth and the whole truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Thank you. You can have a seat. Please state your first and last name and spell both.
Sean, S-E-A-N, Rotuno, R-O-T-U-N-N-O.
You can proceed, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Officer Rotundo, how are you employed?
City of Lansing Police Department,
How long have you been employed there?
4 years.
Were you working on January 6th of 2025?
Yes,
In what capacity?
as a police officer on road patrol.
Did you have an interaction with a Brent Dennis on that day?
Yes,
Is he here in the courtroom right now?
yes.
Could you please identify him by a piece of clothing that he's wearing?
Blue top button up.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant.
Without objection.
Identification is noted.
Thank you. What started the interaction between you and the defendant?
We were called, me and another officer were dispatched to a security check on Vermont Street. There was based on the call dispatch information, there was a red vehicle, four-door small Ford car that was leaving that scene, or the residence in question, I guess, that we were being dispatched to. On the way there, the other officer located a car that matched that description and conducted a traffic stop.
When you say the other officer, who is that officer's name?
Officer Salinas,
So was Salinas then driving the vehicle or were you driving the vehicle?
which,
Were you in separate vehicles?
yes. yes,
Okay, okay. So you then assisted Officer Salinas on the stop of this red vehicle?
Yes,
And was the defendant inside this red vehicle?
yes.
What started the interaction? What happened when you approached the vehicle?
So Officer Salinas was already speaking with the driver. I approached and made contact with a female passenger.
Do you know if Mr. Dennis was ultimately arrested on that day?
Yes,
Did you perform a search of his person after the arrest?
myself as well as Officer Salinas and a third officer also arrived on scene to conduct that search.
Who was that third officer?
Officer Newton,
Newton?
N-E-W-T-O-N.
Thank you. Was Mr. Brent compliant with your investigation?
No,
How what was the issue?
so he didn't have an ID on him. He gave Officer Salinas a name that was not Brent Dennis. Officer Salinas gave the name that was provided to him to me, which I ran in lien, based on the name that was given and the date of birth that was given. Based on the SOS picture that popped up with that given information, I did not believe that to be the driver of the vehicle, Mr. Dennis.
Was there any identification found on Mr. Dennis?
Yes, after he was placed in handcuffs and searched, I did locate a social security card in his wallet with the name Brent Michael Dennis on it.
Was the defendant disruptive in the investigation? Any additional matters?
Yes, so again, like I said, I did not believe that the information provided was in fact the driver of the vehicle. So we asked him to step out of the vehicle to further conduct our investigatory search. Again, as we did not believe that he is who he said he was. At that time, when we asked him to step out of the vehicle, he said that he was suicidal and that he wanted to smoke a cigarette and that he would rather be dead. We opened the door, and he tried to retreat back into the car, essentially refusing to come out, and we essentially fought with him to get him out of the car and place him in handcuffs.
So you and the other officers that were present on scene, were you all working in your capacity as police officers?
Yes,
Were you in police uniform?
yes,
You had stated that you arrived on scene on vehicles. Were those patrol vehicles that were marked as the Lansing Police Department?
yes,
Were you eventually able to get Mr. Dennis out of the vehicle?
yes.
What happened next?
So after we pulled him out of the vehicle, handcuffed him, we got him to a seat and started conducting that search. During the search, he told us to. During the search, he had told us to be careful because he had needles and ice on him.
Based off of your 4 years of experience as being a patrol officer, what do you believe ice to be?
I believed it to be methamphetamine.
Was any suspected methamphetamine found on Mr. Dennis?
So there was a syringe located on him that was about 3/4 full that I ultimately Narcan, or True Narc, I should say, which tested positive for amphetamine.
Is that True Narc done on scene?
No, it was done in our evidence supply room at our Lansing Police Headquarters.
One second, Your Honor, I apologize. Did you end up weighing that? And I apologize. What did it test positive for on the True Narc?
Amphetamine.
Amphetamine, thank you. Did you end up weighing that syringe?
I don't believe so. It was a syringe that was about 3/4 full, but I did not, I weighed it.
Fair to say it would have weighed less than 25 grams?
Yes.
Thank you. Nothing additional, thank you.
Prosecutor.
Good afternoon, officer.
Good afternoon, sir.
So you were essentially dispatched and you were looking for a particular vehicle because of a call for service that had been received. Is that essentially correct?
Yes,
Okay. And you said you were given a description of a red vehicle, I believe a small Ford. Is that right?
yes.
Okay. Anything else beyond that description, like a license plate number of occupants of the vehicle, anything like that?
There was, as far as no license plate, there was one occupant was described as a white male. They said there was a second occupant, but there was no description provided for the second occupant.
And was there a description as to where you would be looking for this vehicle or where this vehicle was traveling?
Yep, so the address was on Vermont Street and the vehicle had left prior to our police arrival, obviously. But it was heading southbound Vermont as it left the residence as we were being dispatched to the call.
And where approximately did you catch up to the vehicle that eventually was stopped?
So the vehicle was stopped just east of North Pennsylvania Avenue on East Cesar Chavez.
Is that consistent or inconsistent with the direction that you were told the vehicle was traveling?
That would be consistent.
And you know approximately how far away from the particular area or residence on Vermont Street that would have been?
Approximately, I would say a mile.
And was there anything erratic in how the vehicle was driving? Were they driving erratically, excessively speeding, anything like that?
So I can't tell you that because I did not make the initial traffic stop.
Okay. And you know approximately how long from the time that you were dispatched to the time that you arrived on the scene?
From the time we were just less than 5 minutes, but I honestly am not certain.
Sure. So, but probably a few minutes as an approximation.
Yes.
And the person that you identified as Mr. Dennis, you said that he had stated that he was suicidal. Is that correct?
Yes.
And he actually said that multiple times. Is that fair?
Yes.
And you so noted that report.
Yes.
And other than that, and those statements, how could you give us some further descriptions as to this demeanor?
Yeah, so he was, answered our questions for the most part up until the point where we had asked him to get out of the car again, which was explained because we didn't believe that he was who he said he was. For the most part, pretty cooperative is how I would describe it.
Did he appear upset? Did he appear emotional? Did he appear angry? Something else?
Again, prior to us asking him to step out of the car, I don't recall any of that being an emotional concern as far as overly emotional or upset or angry or anything else.
And once he was asked to step out of the car and you said he did not comply with that, how would you describe his demeanor then? Was he angry? Was he emotional? Was he something else?
Then I would say yes, he got more upset again. That's when he made the suicidal statements and that he would rather die. I'd say, yeah, more upset more than angry. Would probably be the best way to describe that.
Okay. And have you had experience interactions with people going through certain types of mental health episodes or mental health crises?
Yes.
Would you say Mr. Dennis's demeanor after he was asked to step out of the vehicle was consistent or inconsistent with that?
Hard to say. I can't speak to how each individual feels based on their reactions, and I've seen people make statements and react and have very different emotions despite what they're saying. So I can't speak to that.
Sure. And so you were on scene, I believe, officer, is it Salinas?
Salinas. Yeah.
Salinas. And I think you mentioned, was it an officer Newton?
Yes, he showed up after we had just placed Mr. Dennis into handcuffs.
And so prior, when Mr. Dennis was placed in handcuffs, it was just you and Officer Salinas?
Yes.
And eventually, Mr. Dennis was forcibly extracted from the vehicle. Would that be a fair description?
Yes.
Okay. And was that by you or Officer Salinas or a combination of the two?
Combination.
And describe that. How did that occur?
So, like I said, we asked him to step out of the vehicle. We made the suicidal statements. At that point, the door was opened, and when we opened the door, he had put his left foot out of the vehicle, but used that left foot to try to use it as leverage and kind of retreat back into the vehicle. And then he kept his hands close to his body where we couldn't grab his arms, or it made it much more difficult to try and gain physical control of him. Eventually, we were able to kind of create some room where we could start to pull him out of the vehicle. His seatbelt was still on, so then I had to crawl into the vehicle to release the seatbelt so we could physically remove him from the vehicle and place him on the ground.
And there was someone else in the vehicle. Is that correct?
So to the best of my recollection, I believe that the passenger got out of the vehicle when the physical altercation started. Now, I don't remember 100% only because, again, we were dealing with the physical altercation. But I do remember they got out of the vehicle quickly, or were out of the vehicle there after the fact, I should say.
And I believe you said the reason or the purpose for stopping the vehicle was based upon a call you received, so you could do some type of investigation as related to that vehicle or the occupants in that vehicle. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay. What essentially was the nature of that investigation? What were you doing, or what were you looking for, or did you know?
So it was, again, a security check was how dispatch labeled the call. I believe the caller was a neighbor who said that they had contact with the landlord who had previously evicted the tenants that were living there. Not sure who the tenants are, and don't have knowledge regarding that. But someone was at the residence, i.e. the car that was in the drive based on our call information. And the landlord told the neighbor that no one was supposed to be there. So the neighbor had been the original caller stating someone was at this residence and there was no one supposed to be there.
So essentially a trespass?
I don't have the back
Okay.
story or information to establish what the crime may or may not have been. Again, as far as that, it was potentially yes, but
And then so the reason then for the stop was to pull over the vehicle and detain the occupants in the vehicle and question them about that or the residents on Vermont Street.
yes.
And did you ever do that or attempt to do that on this particular site?
So I did speak to the female passenger, like I said, when I approached. She said that they had just dropped, if I remember correctly, just dropped the driver's brother off at a house to work on a motorhome. I asked her where it was. She did not know the address. She didn't give me the brother's name of who that was, or what this. Didn't give me the brother's name and didn't give me the address of where they had just dropped him off. So, go ahead.
Were you finished?
Yes.
So did either that person or Mr. Dennis say that they had just left the residence on Vermont Street?
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
Objection, did you want to respond to that?
Well, you're not offering up the truth of the matter, sir. I think it would go to the effect that it had on the officer as the listener of that as to what he's investigating or if there is something there to investigate. So I think it's to explain his subsequent actions.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure. Did either of the occupants of the vehicle, Mr. Dennis or the other person, admit to leaving a residence on Vermont Street?
Not specifically. She, like I said, they admitted to just being at a residence to dropping the brother off, but she did not know where that residence was. So there was nothing to confirm or deny essentially that residence was on Vermont Street.
Okay. And you did not witness the vehicle commit any type of traffic infractions or civil infractions, is that correct?
No, I did not.
Okay. And was Mr. Dennis taken straight into custody at the lockup after this?
No, he went to the hospital,
Which hospital?
Farrow Hospital.
Was that because of the suicidal statements?
Yes, it was.
You know if any type of PRT was done or petition because of that?
Yes, it was. I can tell you I did not fill it out. I do not recall which officer, because again, there were two other ones there that completed that.
All the questions I have. Thank you.
No problem. Let me redirect.
Brief redirect, Your Honor. You had mentioned on cross that the stop happened East Caesar Street. Was that in the city of Lansing,
Yes,
Ingham County, state of Michigan?
yes,
On cross, you had also mentioned that you have dealt with individuals who were suicidal in the past.
yes.
What's the typical procedure in regards to those individuals?
simply to get them, if they are suicidal and they make suicidal claims, to get them to the hospital or CMH or someplace where we can petition them for a mental health examination.
Understood, thank you. Nothing additional, Your Honor.
Okay. This officer may be excused. Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
Off the record, I just have a bunch of Ingham County Jail people that have a 130 docket. You raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth and the whole truth under penalty of perjury? Thank you. You can have a seat. Okay, there is a microphone in front of you. The purpose of that microphone is so that the recording system can pick up what you're saying, but it does not amplify your voice. I need your responses to be loud and clear. You must answer yes or no to yes or no questions. You can't do head shakes, nods, or mhm and uhs, okay? If there is an objection, you will stop speaking immediately. I'll make a ruling on that objection, and then I'll tell you if you could give us that answer or not. State your first and last name and spell both.
Kristen Haas, Krysten, Haas, Hause.
Proceed, Counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Hoss, do you know Brent Dennis? And how do you know Brent Dennis?
We share a father.
You said what?
We share a father.
So is it fair to say that you're half siblings then? Want to, is Mr. Dennis here in the courtroom right now?
Yes,
Could you please identify him by a piece of clothing that he's wearing?
yes, he's there in the jail.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant.
Without objection.
So noted.
Thank you. Ms. House, I want to take you back to December 17th of 2024. Where were you at the time?
Home.
Where is your home located?
505 South Pennsylvania Avenue.
Is that in the city of Lansing,
It is,
Ingham County,
that's right,
state of Michigan?
that's right.
Who was in the house with you on December 17th?
That would be myself, my child, Mr. Dennis, and two roommates that we had at the time. Would you like their names?
Yes.
John Cabello and Mandy Pipes.
Then how old is your daughter?
My daughter's 11.
Can you spell those names?
John Cabello, I spelled, I think how it sounds, and then Mandy's last name is, I think, Pires.
I don't know how his last name sounds.
Cabello, he's Cabello.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Was there some sort of, how was Mr. Dennis acting on that day?
Erratic.
Please describe a little more what you mean by erratic. What was he doing to make you believe he was acting erratic?
He had started using drugs after a period of not using drugs, and it was very clear and good.
I don't know, judge lack of foundation as to how she knows that she's been drugged. It's unclear what she's basing that on.
Your Honor, she stated that he was acting erratic and that she believed that he was acting erratic because of drug use. I can go further into the drug use if that's what the defense wishes to do.
Right, I think her statement said after a period of not using, it was clear that he was back on there. So I'm sustaining the objection, but he can get into that if he wants to lay foundation.
So thank you, Your Honor. Was Mr. Dennis using drugs to your knowledge?
Yes,
Why do you believe that?
he told me, and I saw it.
Do you know what drugs those were? Or what did he tell you those drugs were?
Methamphetamine, to my knowledge.
You said he was acting erratic. What behaviors was he exhibiting to make you believe he was acting erratic?
Talking nonsensically, very hyper, much more so than I had ever seen him before.
How were you feeling at the time?
Afraid.
What did you end up doing as a response to this behavior? Did you do anything? Did you call the police? Did you talk to someone else? Like, was there
Before the incident that we're here about, or just in general as far as?
around this time when he was acting erratic?
I didn't do anything in particular about his specific erratic, just in his general erratic behavior, no, other than express concern to him about his drug use.
Understood. At some point, did a neighbor reach out to you? Do you remember?
Not that I recall.
Did Mr. Dennis's behavior become aggressive at some point in time? Please explain to the court what started that aggressive behavior.
Are you asking me to speak to like why he was angry?
If you know why he was angry or what he was doing, like you said he was acting aggressive. What did he start doing when you believe that he was aggressive? What made you think that he was aggressive?
I'm not really sure I understand exactly what you're asking me to describe.
So at one point, did he become more aggressive than just the agitation that you were like? Was there basically a leveling up or like a bump up in his behavior? Did it become more violent?
Just when the drug use started, is that's what to me. And then after that, it was pretty much it. So you just. That properly answers your question?
Did Mr. Dennis act violent or aggressive at any point in the night that made the police get called?
Absolutely.
Could you please explain to the court what started that?
So I'm not sure why he was so aggressive that particular evening. I could speculate if you like, but I probably shouldn't. So I can't
No
say why he was
speculation.
so, I can't say what event exactly sparked the anger that caused him to commit this particular crime that day.
So when you say crime, what do you mean by crime?
The stabbing of another human being.
So I want to go back then. You mentioned a stabbing. Can you please explain the beginning of this interaction that resulted in a stab?
Sure, so he had come into my house and he lived next door at our father's house. He'd come over to my house. It was late. He was, like I said, acting erratically, definitely having some mental health issues, drug use, in combination with drug use. He was yelling, very angry, not really sure exactly what about. And then the commotion was heard. We were upstairs and the people I spoke of before, my two roommates, John and Mandy, they were downstairs, heard commotion, came upstairs, and there's a curtain that hangs in between my living room and where a person would come from downstairs to get into my living room. And as Mr. Covello came through the curtain is when Mr. Dennis then went towards him, and that's when he stabbed him.
So then Mr. Dennis started this interaction and was being erratic inside of your living room.
Yes.
You had mentioned a stabbing.
Right.
How did he stab Mr. Covello?
So I didn't see him stab him. I didn't see the knife go in because, like I said, the curtain that kind of hangs there, I have sort of a square hallway. And they were in the hallway and I was still in the living room and when the fight and an altercation broke out. So I didn't witness the physical stabbing.
Did you, at any point in that night, did you ever see Mr. Dennis holding something that could have been used as a stabbing instrument?
Yes.
What was that?
Kitchen knives.
What kind of kitchen knives?
The kind you chop with, big ones, not regular steak knives. I mean, the police seized all of my kitchen knives.
Understood. When Mr. Covello was coming into the living room, was Mr. Dennis still holding that kitchen knife at the time?
Yes.
And do you remember Mr. Dennis saying anything before he went to confront Mr. Cavello?
There was a lot that was being said, and like I said, a lot of it was nonsensical. And so I know he did say things to him, yes, but I can't recall word for word or quote him necessarily.
Did you have any concerns as to what Mr. Dennis may do based off the statements that he made?
That as far as,
Did you believe it was going to turn into a stabbing based off the statements that Mr. Dennis had made?
no. I have no reason to believe that that was how the night was going to end.
So when did you see that Mr. Cavello had a stab?
So, let's see, about, as soon as Mr. Dennis, and he got into the altercation in my little hallway there, I got up out of my bed, wrapped something around myself, and then by the time I got to the hallway, it had already occurred. And Mr. Cavello was walking away for the basement, and Mr. Dennis left my home.
I want to go back. You said that you had left your bed. Is your bed in the same living room that
It is.
Mr. Dennis was in?
Yes,
Okay. And did you see where Mr. Cavello was stabbed?
somewhere in his abdomen.
When you saw it, was there something still stuck inside Mr. Cavello, or did you, what exactly did you see?
I don't think that there was I don't believe that anything was still stuck in him, no. He was bleeding, there was some blood on his hand, he was holding, his abdomen, and his girlfriend was quite scared.
The shock and chaos of anything. Do you remember Mr. Cavello saying anything?
No, I don't actually, he just kind of, went, like I said, went back toward my basement, just seemingly to try to just get away from Mr. Dennis, and Mr. Dennis left my house.
What did you do at that point?
So Mr. Cavello's girlfriend Nanny had already called the police, and so what I did is, before any of that, before we even got there, I held on to my daughter's, I grabbed onto my daughter's door handle, and I held on, and held the door shut and sat down, and I stayed right there until the police came.
So she was not present for this incident?
She was, but she was in her room, and that's why I held the door shut and sat down in front of the door.
One second, Your Honor.
No problem.
Did you know that Mr. Cavello was coming upstairs before he came up?
I did not.
How did you know that Mr. Cavello was there when? Like, how do you know that Mr. Cavello was there?
Oh,
Or
they
did
were-
you just did you show up after the stab wound and that's when you found out Mr. Cavello was there, or?
Mr. Cavello and Mrs. Myers, they were roommates of mine, and I was renting my basement to them. So they lived in my, so I knew they were.
How did you know that Mr. Cavello was involved? So I guess, strike that, Your Honor. Was Mr. Dennis still holding anything when he left was he still holding the knife when he left the house?
I'm not sure. I did not see.
Did you ever end up seeing the knife again that he was holding before?
Did not.
Nothing additional, Your Honor. Thank you.
Cross-exam.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. I may just have a very brief. Good afternoon. So, as I understand it, this incident you were talking about between Mr. Cabello and Mr. Dennis, you did not see that from the beginning, is that correct?
I did, from the start of Mr. Cabello and his altercation, yes, I just didn't physically see him stab Mr. Cabello.
Okay.
Because they had just entered like a part of my house, they had just walked right into the next room and began their.
And you made it very clear you did not witness any stabbing, is that correct?
Right, I did not see him stab.
Okay. And when this was going on, where was Mandy at, if you know?
I believe she was downstairs or coming up from, she must have been somewhere in between my down, on the stairs.
Was she up there in close proximity to where she could have seen the interaction between Mr. Cabello and Mr.
No, it's my understanding that I believe I was already holding on to my daughter's bedroom door by the time that Mandy came up, got up to the top of the stairs.
And your daughter never came out at all during
Right.
this, is that right?
That's
Okay. And whatever transpired between Mr. Cabello and Mr. Dennis, you said after that he went back and walked downstairs, is that right? Mr.
Yeah,
Cabello
he-
I'm talking about.
Retreated, yes.
Yes,
From
okay.
the area.
And you were describing Mr. Dennis's behavior that day as rather erratic, is that
Right.
correct?
Yes,
And he was talking nonsensical.
yes.
In other words, saying things that just didn't make any sense.
Right,
And I believe your testimony was, you said he was obviously going through some mental health issues at that time, is that right?
he not only stated that as much, yes, but I was trying to help him find a therapist and such, and yes, so yes, very much so.
Thank you, Your Honor. I believe that's all the questions I have.
You're right.
Briefly, Your Honor. You had stated that Mr. Dennis walked to the curtain, and so you had lost track of Mr. Dennis when he was talking to Mr. Cavell. What made, to your knowledge, if you know, what made Mr. Dennis walk over that way?
So,
Your Honor, I would object. I think that calls for the witness to speculate.
I'm just asking if she knew. I'm not,
Well,
I'm not asking her
Your
to
question is
speculate.
what if she knows what made him walk over there?
Correct. So I'm not asking for speculation. If she knows what it is, I'm asking if she knows it. I'm not asking her to speculate as to why.
Well, how would she know if she didn't speculate why Mr. Dennis would go over to the curtain?
I can re-ask the question, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Is there some kind of noise or something behind the curtain?
yes, we heard Mr. Cavello say, hey, everything okay, or something along those lines. Hey, you guys, what's going on? So what's going on? Everything okay up here? Something like that. Then he opened the curtain. And then that's when Mr. Dennis pushed him back, and started an altercation with him. in that. So
Understood.
we did know he was.
And there was no one else that was there that could have potentially stabbed? That you didn't see anyone else there
No,
during the
absolutely
altercation?
not.
Nothing additional, thank you.
I have some questions. Ma'am, you stated that Mr. Cabello came up and asked, is everyone okay?
Yes,
At
ma'am.
this time, what did Mr. Dennis have in his hand?
2 kitchen knives.
So when Mr. Dennis walked over to behind the curtain, he already had 2 kitchen knives in his hand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Any redirect or thoughts based on that?
Not based on those questions, Your Honor.
Not based on the court's questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Any additional questions for Ms. House?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. House, thank you. You can be excused. Any other witnesses today?
No other witnesses, Your Honor.
Any defense witnesses?
We'll rely on the evidence presented, Your Honor. Thank you.
Argument?
Yes, Your Honor. The charges in this case are twofold, Your Honor. The charges are assault with intent to murder as well as assault with a dangerous weapon. Based off of the testimony today, the people would agree that it would be, we do not have sufficient evidence to prove assault with intent to murder. However, we would be pursuing an additional added count of assault with great bodily harm less than murder, Your Honor. And we believe that we have met probable cause in regard to that, as well as count 2 assault with a dangerous weapon. The elements for count 2 assault with a dangerous weapon are fourfold, Your Honor. First, that the defendant either attempted to commit a battery on Mr. Carvel or did an act that would cause a reasonable person to fear or apprehend an immediate battery. A battery is a forceful or violent touching of the person or something closely connected with the person. Second is that the defendant intended either to injure Mr. Carvelis or to make Mr. Carvelis reasonably fear an immediate battery. The third is that at the time the defendant had the ability to commit a battery, appeared to have the ability to commit a battery, or thought he had the ability to commit a battery. The fourth is that the defendant committed an assault with a dangerous weapon. And a dangerous weapon is an object that is used in any way that could likely cause serious physical injury or death. You heard today, Your Honor, from Ms. House that on this date in question, on December 17th, the defendant, who was his half brother, was inside of her house on that day. That house being in the city of Lansing, Ingham County, state of Michigan. And that he was acting erratic that day. He was acting aggressive that day. He was walking around with multiple knives and saying things that didn't make any sense. You then heard that this roommate that was there at the time, Mr. Cavella, walked into the room and had asked what was going on. And that is when the defendant came at him from, you heard from Ms. House's testimony, is that the defendant came at him with 2 knives inside of his hands. And as she did not see, and actually she did not see the assault, that is true. However, she did see the aftermath of that assault being the stab wound and the blood that Mr. Cavella was holding and walking away from after this incident. It's clear, Your Honor, that there was an assault with a dangerous weapon done based off of the injuries that Ms. House saw on that day. And a knife, very clearly, Your Honor, is a dangerous weapon. The defendant clearly had the ability to commit the assault, which he did, as once again, there was a wound on his abdomen consistent with a cut. The other charge, Your Honor, would be assault with intent to do great bodily harm less than murder. That's the added count 3 that we would be requesting. There are 3 elements to that. First, that the defendant tried to physically injure another person. Second, that at the time of the assault, the defendant had the ability to cause an injury, or at least believed he had the ability. And the third, that the defendant intended to cause great bodily harm. Actual injury is not necessary, but if there is an injury, you may consider it as evidence in deciding whether the defendant caused great bodily harm. Great bodily harm means any physical injury that could seriously harm the health or function of the body. Once again, Your Honor, you heard that the defendant walked over to Mr. Cavella with 2 knives in his hand. You heard from Ms. House that after there was an altercation between the 2 of them, he had a cut, he had a wound on his stomach that was profusely bleeding on his abdomen. That's great bodily harm, Your Honor. So we ask that you bind over on those 2 counts. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. I can certainly appreciate the people not moving forward with count 1. I do agree with them on that. I don't believe the proofs rise to probable cause on that. I think Ms. House testified to what she could, but she was very limited in the testimony she could provide to court. She readily admitted she did not witness any stabbing, so we don't have any direct testimony as it relates to that, or how many times Mr. Cabell may have been stabbed. I understand that some of these may be considered issues of fact for a circuit court trier of fact to sort through. But if there is to be a bind over, Your Honor, I would just ask the court to not bind over on anything greater than the people have requested. Nevertheless, Your Honor, I am asking the court to deny the people's motion to bind over on both accounts that they have asked for at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dennis, again, the burden is on the prosecution to establish more than mere suspicion that the felonies alleged were committed and more than mere suspicion that you were the person who committed the felonies. We had count 1, assault with intent to murder, originally charged. That is going to be dismissed at the motion of the prosecution for lack of probable cause. Count 2 is charged as assault with a dangerous weapon, also known as felonious assault. And we had testimony today of one person, Kristen House, who just is the defendant's sister, states that they share a father, that on or about the date of December 17, 2024, at the area of 515 South Pennsylvania, which is in the city of Lansing, Ingham County, state of Michigan, and makes venue in this court appropriate. That they were in the house. She was in her house, she said, with her daughter, her 11-year-old daughter, 2 roommates. Sounds like she shares, or that the defendant lives near her, I believe. That the defendant was in her unit, but it was acting erratic at the time, and that the defendant had, after not been using drugs, had recently admitted, and she had saw him, or saw the drugs, had he recently been reusing drugs, namely methamphetamine. She stated that the defendant was talking nonsensibly, that he was hyper, that she was afraid of him at that time, that his behavior became aggressive, and that it was violent to the point in which the police had to be called at some point during that date. That the defendant, again, must live next door. That a commotion was heard, to which one of the roommates, Mr. Cabello, came up to see to ensure if everyone was okay. She stated that Mr. Cabello yelled out, I guess from behind a curtain, asking if everything was okay, if everyone was okay. She testified that she did see the defendant with 2 kitchen knives, not to be confused with steak knives. So I'm assuming these must be larger than steak knives, but 2 kitchen knives in his hand, approached the curtain area to which the area where Mr. Cabello was, and that a altercation ensued. She did not see what took place behind that curtain, but immediately following that, she did witness Mr. Cabello had been stabbed, and that she did see the wound. Let's see. The elements have already been identified by the prosecution, and the question today is whether or not that gap in space between what the witness saw and versus what she's able to put on the record now, if that's sufficient enough to establish probable cause. And so probable cause can be based on direct evidence or circumstantial evidence. And there are reasonable inferences that can be brought about when we have a circumstantial evidence, and even some of the direct evidence that was brought forth by way of her testimony. And we have, again, testimony where she did notice or report erratic, threatening behavior by the defendant, and that the defendant was being violent and aggressive, and that he had 2 kitchen knives in his hand as he approached the area to behind the curtain where Mr. Cabello was, and where Mr. Cabello had ran up to see if everyone was okay. And that after that, she could hear, she said, an altercation. And then after which she visualized or saw with her own eyes the wound, a stab wound for Mr. Cabello. As it relates to assault with a dangerous weapon, I think it's unequivocal that a knife is a dangerous weapon. And these being described as kitchen knives. So the assault with a dangerous weapon, I think there's more than mere suspicion that occurred. And so count 2, assault with a dangerous weapon, will be bound over to the circuit court. The people are asking to add a count 3 of assault with intent to do great bodily harm, less than murder. Based on the testimony evidence, the court is satisfied that there is sufficient probable cause. A great bodily harm, less than murder. The, again, testimony was that the witness saw the stab wounds, and that she described those wounds to be in the stomach area. And where we hold some essential organs. So we don't know the extent or gravity of the actual injury, but that's not germane to the elements as it relates to bind over at this time. So count 3 will be added of assault with intent to do great bodily harm, less than murder, and that will accompany count 2. Bind over date is going to be the 14th of May. And your pretrial date again will be set after the circuit court receives the file from the district court. Do you have any questions today, Mr. Dennis?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Your Honor, trying to think, like, what am I being charged with now?
You're being charged with assault with a dangerous weapon and then assault with intent to do great bodily harm, less than murder. They have dismissed the assault with intent to murder.
Yeah.
So the most serious of the charges have been dismissed, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, do you have any other questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay, any additional matters for the record at this time?
Not for the people, Your Honor.
And just briefly, if I may, Your Honor, as it relates to bond, given that the most serious charge Mr. Dennis was facing has not been bound over, that was an offense he was facing life for. The primary offense he's facing now is a 10-year. I would just ask the court to consider giving him some relief in either the amount or form of his bond. I think nearly all of his prior criminal history is nonviolent in nature. It appears that he hasn't been convicted of a felony in the last 5 years. Thank you.
This bond in this file is 75,000 cash surety. And it looks like the bond in the other matter is 2,000 cash surety. I agree that the bond should be reduced based on the reduction, I guess, in the charging. Let's see. Bond in this matter will be set in the amount of 5,000 cash surety with GPS tether, which was already instated or in place. 2,000 feet victim exclusion zone, not to have contact directly or indirectly with the alleged victim. Any additional matters for the record?
I have nothing additional back from Mr. Dennis, Your Honor. Thank you.
Nothing for the people, Your Honor.
You're all set.